Hey guys, this is Michael David Ward coming at you from the Break It Down Show.
And now, the Break It Down Show with John and Pete.
Hey man, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Tell us about what you're working on lately, man.
Well, let's see. What I've been working on lately is a project based on a character I named Loween. Loween comes from the word Halloween, and it's a goth female action heroine that is fighting against the dark forces of evil. Besides that, I still paint. I do a lot of paintings based on Star Trek and Star Wars entertainment properties. I've done stuff for the studios. That's pretty much what I spend my time working on, but I'm moving more and more into graphic novels, telling basically stories with pictures and words.
There are a lot of folks out there who are inspired by entertainment properties. And when you say, oh yeah, I paint stuff based on Star Wars and Star Trek, your works of art have hung in Gene Roddenberry's house.
Yes. I was really fortunate to get officially involved with Star Trek because some time ago, this was back in the 90s, I was working for Hewlett-Packard. I was a technical writer, and I decided to leave technical writing, the corporate world, to pursue my art career. And I started to do these really cool, really different paintings based on a medium called reverse glass.
Yeah.
And I paint on the back of glass these really wild space scenes. And the reason I paint on glass is because it has a depth that you can't get with any other medium. And just by chance, whether you want to call it synchronicity, coincidence.
We were calling it a lot of things over dinner.
Exactly. Fate. I ended up showing my work in a gallery in Beverly Hills, and the owners of the gallery ended up participating at a benefit dinner. I think it was a Jack Benny benefit dinner for on behalf of Gene Roddenberry. And they sat right next to him, and they showed him my work, and he was so interested in it, he wanted to actually come to the gallery and take a look at my work. And so that one event ended up kicking off my whole career with Star Trek. And what I find interesting about that is, prior to that, I was doing a lot of drawings with my artwork, kind of wishing, boy, how could I do something for Star Trek? I'd love to do my own depictions of their property using my art style, and just out of the blue, I get a call from those gallery owners saying that, guess what? Guess who's coming to your art show in Beverly Hills? And I go, who? And they said, Gene Roddenberry. And I go, oh my gosh. I mean, what are the odds of that, right?
Yeah.
And so from there, Gene Roddenberry came to the gallery. He really liked my work. In fact, I even have a video of he and I meeting for the first time and interacting, sharing all the paintings with him. And then he invited me to this to the Paramount lot and on the set of The Next Generation.
What the hell?
Crazy.
Yeah.
It was crazy. And I got to tour the whole set, the bridge, the whole thing.
You're hanging out with Gene Roddenberry.
I'm hanging out with Gene Roddenberry, one of my childhood heroes, and
sure.
I grew up watching Star Trek.
Of course, yeah.
And so
that would be like if I liked painting murals of Aztec chicks on the side of my lowrider van.
Right.
And suddenly I'm at a car show doing a mural on the side of a Ford Econoline with my Aztec presence, my hands on my hips, headdress and whatnot, and a beautiful, voluptuous woman hanging onto my leg.
I like it.
And Hef shows up. Hey, man, I'd like to buy this van.
Exactly.
Right.
And then I go, wait a minute, aren't you Hef? And he says, yeah, man, I'm Hef. Do you want to come out, hang out? I'll show you the grotto.
Yes, the grotto.
That's the equivalent of that. So just in case there are people out there who aren't Star Trek fans, I don't know who those 8 people are, but my wife's one of them. She's in the next room. Just in case you don't understand the scope of what we're talking about here, when you paint something based on an entertainment property, and they have Gene Roddenberry say, yeah, man, I dig it. Come check. Hey, you know what? This week is Bring My Favorite Artist to Work Day.
Well, I can tell you that it was definitely a jaw-dropping experience.
Yeah.
I had to pinch myself being on the set of Star Trek, and then on.
He won't say this, but you know what? He was wandering around and stumbled into the dressing room of 7 of 9.
Oh boy!
Oh
And
yeah,
she was in
my
there.
favorite Borg.
Yes.
And she was in there. I'd say making her way between 2.5 and 3. Right when Michael stumbled in and went, oh, my bad. I'm sorry.
My good.
I'd like to paint you.
My goodness. Yes.
Well, that's one opportunity. Unfortunately, I didn't really get to experience. But hey, she's not around anymore as 7 of 9, so I guess that one's gone.
Yeah.
But to take it even further, it's pretty interesting. After Gene gave me a tour of part of the set, then he invited me to have lunch with him in the Paramount cafeteria. And after that, he acquired one of my original paintings, and we made kind of a pact where he allowed me to make prints of this painting, and he authorized his signature on the prints.
Wow.
And so I have a bunch of prints out there with Gene Roddenberry's signature on it.
Huh.
And then after that, he actually invited me to his home in Bel Air.
Jeez.
And I got to hang out with him.
You did
at
get
his
to
house.
see the grotto.
Yeah, his grotto.
Yeah.
Right.
Bel Air's a good neighborhood.
I don't know if there is an equivalent to that. That would be like if Hef said, "You know what I'm going to do?
Yeah.
I'm going to take. What was his wife's name?
Mrs. Hef?
Mrs. Hef. Yeah, I'm going to
Yeah,
take
which
Mrs.
wife?
Hef, and I'm going to stamp her ass print on the right above the exhaust pipe of your Ford Econoline van.
Kimberly Conrad.
Right,
Yeah.
her or one of the other
One
ones.
of them.
Barbie Benton. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
One of them. And but yeah, man, that's terrific.
Yeah,
And
it was
so,
great.
can you say what transpired beyond that? Did you have like a working relationship at all with them where you would be privy to other things that were coming, or
To a minor degree, with regard to the show, not so much. But what it did do was it opened up the doors for me to now create a bunch of artwork for Paramount.
yeah,
My work was licensed on all kinds of posters, prints, merchandise.
Wow.
Collector plates, mouse pads, all kinds of products like that.
Well, people can go to your Facebook page, Michael David Ward, and look
Right.
at your cover photos and things like that, because some of that artwork is displayed there. So you can go see it and see what it looks like. Not in anything resembling its full glory, because, like you said, the painting on glass gives you a depth that you can't communicate on a Facebook photo.
Yeah.
But at least people can see and understand the subject matter and the appeal of the subject matter, and see why Gene Roddenberry saw it and went, oh, Michael gets it, which I think is an enormous compliment. I was once a minor partner in a business that sponsored the Star Trek convention.
No way.
In Las
Really?
Vegas.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that was a large part of my world, was the conventions, which
Well,
we
I'll
can
tell
talk
you,
about.
man, it was a world that I had no familiarity with, and was in my first exposure, which was it was in Las Vegas, so it was big,
Yes.
and I didn't understand the size and scope of this event.
How long ago was this?
But I don't know, maybe 98.
Okay, because it's huge in Las Vegas.
I was the mouthpiece of the company that was the title sponsor.
Wow.
Of the event, and so that meant that I got to introduce the discussion that was the finale of the event, which was there was just a stage discussion with Leonard Nimoy and William Shatner.
Oh, wow.
So
Cool.
I didn't get to hang out with them, but I did get to say, "Ladies and gentlemen," and I had the floor. I was responsible for delivering this, little address before it happened. So I had to do 10 to 15 minutes before introducing them, which was, I thought, hey, this is great. And then I got in the room and I went, holy shit, this room is enormous. And there were chairs as far as the eye could see. And I had a PowerPoint presentation, which was pretty cute, because I was taking pictures around that thing, and of course, what I was taking pictures of was a chick that was dressed at 7 of 9, who was hot as hell. She was, oh man. And then, she was my callback. So throughout the presentation, I would be like, and then this hot chick, and I would go back to her, and I embarrassed the hell out of her in that way that would make her show up the next day and be like, oh, you embarrassed me so much. And I was like,
That's right.
I love this job.
Thank you, 5 of 9.
Yes.
Come on over. Taco bar's open.
Taco bar is open. So, that was a hell of an experience. But just the culture of that event and the fraternity that exists there, because those folks who attend the event and really go for it and, dress like a Klingon and take the Klingon speech classes. And
yeah,
it's
intense.
It is
crazy.
Intense. And
they take it seriously.
They take it seriously, and they support each other in taking it seriously.
Well, what's cool about it, John, is because why they're so passionate about Star Trek is because it points to a hopeful future, right? Mm-hmm. Where everybody's getting along.
Yeah.
And,
right.
Seeing past all the differences and all the divisiveness that's going on.
And I love the way that they are able to point out the divisiveness in a way that's not threatening or accusatory or anything like that. Like
preachy, didactic.
These damn Klingons and the Romulans or whoever it is, when really they're a euphemism for the whatever ethnic group someone chooses to single out. And if you look at it and you really take a good look at yourself, you go, you know what? God damn it, maybe that's me. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'm the ass that doesn't like Romulans.
Yeah, I'm sure all of us are to one degree or another at some stage in our life, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Working to evolve.
So it did show us an evolved world. Mm-hmm. And you know what? I'd plant one right onto Uhuru's mouth, too. If I was given the opportunity back in 1962 or whenever that happened, the first interracial kiss.
50 years ago.
Gene,
oh, absolutely. And I know
I'm
Nichelle.
your man, baby.
Oh,
I know her.
Yeah?
Very
Have you
well.
kissed her?
Very well. On the cheek. She's
All
kissed
right.
me on the cheek.
All right.
Yeah, I got some good pictures on Facebook of us hugging.
Yeah.
If you want to check them out.
Well,
Nichelle and I became good friends from all of the work that I did for Paramount. And speaking of the conventions, John,
she's still smoking hot, too. I just want to say those words.
She is. She's an amazing lady.
I'm not sure how old she is, and I wouldn't ask because I don't ask a lady her age. But you know what? Still smoking hot.
Yeah, absolutely. The show's been on 50 years, so she must be like 27.
Yep. Somewhere in the neighborhood of 27.
Right.
Yeah.
And she's a very kind and generous person, too.
I bet.
Really nice lady. I hung out at these conventions a lot because I had an art distributor there that sold my work at the conventions, and most of my work was being sold at those conventions.
Wow.
And
well, that's where your audience
That's
is.
a good place to sell it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You'd be surprised at the kinds of people that go to these. We're talking doctors, lawyers, physicists, every profession.
There are the young comic book nerd fans.
Absolutely.
Sure.
But you expect those, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't expect these people that are doctors and lawyers dressed up in outfits and
well,
all
doctors and lawyers liked comic books when they were growing up too.
Sure.
And now that show is 50 years old, the folks who have grown up with the show and who got it when they were young,
they got it,
are going to be the folks who have an evolved position older in their life, and also the disposable income, by the way, to come up with a Klingon costume. Hey, I'm going to be a Klingon for 4 days in Las Vegas. You can't half-step that.
Yeah.
I mean, you can if you want. Nobody's going to. They'll welcome you with open arms. But there are people down there with thousands of dollars worth of, prosthetics and shit.
Not to mention the stuff they're buying at these conventions, collectibles, and my artwork. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Right.
It was crazy how passionate they are for this stuff. They get it.
But I'll tell you what I enjoyed about that convention was, and it wasn't just Star Trek. Although it was the Star Trek convention, so it was dominated by the Star Trek world. But they also had, there were people. I met the guy who was in the robot suit.
Nice.
In Lost in Space.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And that guy was,
I know him. Well, he passed away recently, but he and I were friends. Bob May.
Yeah. Bob May.
Yes.
I'm sorry to hear that he passed away because I tell some good stories about him, and some of them are a little cheeky. And because he was a character.
Yeah, he was. A nice man, too. Really a nice man.
I smoked cigarettes back then, and so did he.
In the suit.
So what we would do is, we would find ourselves on smoke breaks, and that's how I got to know him, because I was like, hey, Bob, you want to catch a smoke? Yeah. And then he'd go back, and he'd start talking about these stories. Like, he would open a story with, okay, I was with, and he'd name 3 or 4 people that, since that's not my world, I don't know who they are. And I was with these guys, and we were on this cruise, right? And it was us, and there were about 4 or 5 other celebrities. And I'm thinking to myself, did you just use the word celebrity, man? You were in a suit.
Yeah.
Nobody ever saw you, Bob. But, of course, I wouldn't say that to him. But it just would blow my mind that he really was in this world where you never saw his face on screen.
Right.
But everybody knew who he was.
Yes, absolutely. He had a huge following.
Yeah.
People would buy his pictures with his autograph all the time at these conventions.
Hey, do guys like him and Anthony Daniels, do they have like their own little fraternity, like where they get together?
Wouldn't you?
I would.
I mean,
the man in the suit.
I'm the guy
Yeah.
in the suit.
Fraternity.
Yeah.
Hey, who's this guy? Hey, no, he's with me, man. He's all right. Yeah, but he can't be here. No, seriously. He was Ultraman.
Yeah.
Something like that.
But Anthony Daniels, though, at least you got to hear his voice, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Bob
yeah.
May, you didn't get even
You
hear
didn't
his
hear
voice.
his voice.
What
No.
about the guy
He
who
just-
played HR Puff and stuff? Like, that guy just jumped around with a giant hamburger on his head.
Their job really was just to make this suit ambulatory.
Right.
It's like you got to get it from this mark to this mark.
Here, there. And don't catch on fire.
And try and emote from inside that box.
Right. I need
Well,
you to go
he
back
did.
to
He
but-
did. He made those arms
But
move in
guess
such
what?
a way.
Yes, and we think about that, and we understand exactly what that was. Mm-hmm. So, oh man, God bless him. I'm sorry to hear that he passed. He was a funny guy.
Yes, and unfortunately, he lost his home in one of those big fires in Southern California just prior to that. And I think that partly contributed to his demise. It
Right.
broke his heart
Yeah.
because he lost all of his collectibles and all his memorabilia from his days in Lost in Space.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, that'd be rough.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, that's terrible.
His whole life was that.
I bet. Yeah. I mean, that was his whole life.
B9 robot. Mm-hmm.
Let us move back to 7 of 9. Because thank you, Bob, for your contributions to our entertainment past. And
Well, I wanted
for
to
being
ask.
such a great guy. But
So
let's move on.
I've done some work at One Letterman in San Francisco, out in the Presidio, and that's where LucasArts has an office.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a ton of art there. Is any of your art there? Because I've seen all that stuff.
Well, I know that one of my images, which was turned into a print, it's called Death Star Rising. It's in ILM somewhere.
Okay.
So I think it's hanging somewhere there.
Yeah, it could be. Could
George Lucas sent me a letter thanking me for the
Yeah.
art. So
This is
and
some
I-
incredible art.
It is. Well, you mean that the Presidio?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, yeah, the best of the best.
Yeah.
These guys are the Imagineers for sure.
Right.
So let's talk about what drives your inspiration to make these things, because you're a fucking wildly interesting dude, man.
Well, thanks, John. I appreciate that description. I take that as a compliment. Well, I guess I'm just like anybody on this human journey, trying to just figure out, what is the meaning and purpose of life, but also what is my potential as a human being? What can I do with what I've been given? I want to explore that, and I'm really inspired by aesthetics.
Yeah.
I'm inspired by excellence, things that are just, I guess, inspiring. You can look at a shape or a form or a color, and it does something to you emotionally. We're wired, right, to respond to these things. And so ever since I was a kid, I grew up on all this stuff that excited me. I wanted to express it somehow through my art. When I saw something on a TV show, I wanted to draw it. And so I wanted to say, how good can I draw this? And life is full of surprises. Here's the thing I've learned about life, at least for me, and it's inexplicable, and why I've also kind of moved heavy into not just. I'm really into metaphysics now too, because I want to understand to what degree am I having an influence on my reality. But I find that where you point your conscious intention, whether or not you want to say it's luck, coincidence, or you believe in a higher power, your prayers are being answered, whatever, right? It actually affects how your life unfolds. And, of course, you have to back it up with action, right?
Sure.
But what I notice is where I point my intention, it's like things just inexplicably open up to me as long as I'm doing the hard work.
Right.
But I think it's more than just doing the hard work. I don't think it's just like cause and effect. I think it's something more. I think we actually have an effect on our lives that is unexplainable. I mean, look at, like, for example, the placebo effect, right? I mean, we know for a fact, and this is not
It's a real
debatable.
thing.
It exists.
Yeah, we know that if I take the sugar pill, but I believe it's a real pill, my body changes, things I can actually heal from, our symptoms can go away.
Right.
To what where's the boundary of that, right? To
Yeah.
what degree does it stop having an effect on the reality? And so that's part of what inspires me is I want to pursue excellence, I want to do things that excite me, and I also want to, through my art, convey what I'm excited about to others. And so, in a way, I guess it's kind of like proselytizing, in some fashion about something more.
What does excite you, though? Like, if you could capture that.
Boy, geez, that's a big question because there's so many things that excite me. I'm sure, like all of you guys, you're excited. You have a diverse interest, right? And it's not just one thing. And sometimes it's contextual. Like one moment you're excited because you're in this certain circumstance. Another minute, wow, this excites me. I just have this insatiable need to always create something, content.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And maybe we're all just wired as human beings to create. I think that's partly true for all of us, right? We all want to create. You guys are creating this radio show.
Right.
Why is it that you want to create this radio show? You want to somehow convey these interesting ideas, what you think are interesting people, and you guys are interesting because you're interested in other people. So all that collectively is going out and it's inspiring other people because they're interested in what people are doing because we're all just kind of figuring this out, right? What are we here for?
Trying to figure it out.
Yeah, and so, through this radio show, I'm sure that people get some of that, and so that's what inspires me, basically. Kind of a long-winded answer, but
no, it's a great answer. And you keep talking about things, and it's evolved. It's a wise, it's an educated look at things. You're not you-centric. You're not egocentric. You're trying to figure out how to contribute, how to, obviously, affect your own outcome by having this positive way of pointing at things.
it's partly pragmatic, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to survive,
Right.
But you've got a very healthy respect for how little that requires of you, and then also if you give out, things come back.
Yes.
If you're sending out these positive things by
Karma.
Yeah, by putting someone's answering like when they see your art and they're like, I'm a huge Star Trek fan and I need this thing. Every time they walk by that thing, you've done a little something, towards their heart.
Which I honor and greatly appreciate. I never take it for granted because first of all, I feel lucky that I, have the ability to do anything
Right.
with art. But I also understand that we're all trying to just make the best of what attributes, circumstances we're given to do something special in this life.
Sure.
And so if somebody comes up and wants to talk to me about my art or they want to give me a compliment or something, it's like I just feel really honored
Right.
that I can actually even get that from someone.
John and Pete.
Hey, everybody, if you like the Break It Down show,
I can dig it.
And of course you do.
of course you do, hit that subscribe button.
John and Pete.
It helps us out.
Hey, if you're going to like the show on Facebook or on Twitter, it helps us out if you share the show so people can learn about it. So liking it is great. Sharing is even better.
Let's do some spy stuff.
Yeah, just
Let's
sneak
get
in
all
there.
our friends' phones and have them subscribe to the Break It Down show. Do it. Subscribe. Listen to the show. If you love the show, tell 5 of your friends. Or if you hate the show, tell 5 of your friends. I'm a big fan of Shep Gordon. Everybody has gone wild over Shep Gordon. He's
Come
been
on the
in
show,
entertainment business. Yeah, he's been in the entertainment business for a long, long time. But he's sort of newly famous because there was a documentary about him on Netflix recently that Michael Myers made called Supermensch, and it's great. If you guys haven't seen it, you should see it.
It's great. I've seen it.
a lot of his theme is, I'm not a practicing Buddhist. I'm not a practicing, even though he's hangs out with the Dalai Lama, has cooked for him several times, things like that. But he's like, hey, man, I just live my life in service of others. And I've been fortunate enough that has given me the wealth to do whatever I want. And so I feel like the whatever I want has to continue to be gaining my satisfaction from being in service of others. Mm-hmm. And like you said, it's something that it feeds the universe, but it feeds you back.
I think there's something intrinsic and fundamental about that. I believe that deep down, fundamentally, we are all connected on some level.
Yeah.
And even quantum physics proves that we live in kind of a holistic, holographic reality in a way. But I think just as a humanity that we understand that, I think what gets in the way is not only egos, but the circumstances in which we find ourselves and the construct that we're living in, which forces us to have to survive, dog eat dog, whatever you want to call that, right? Doesn't always bring out the best in humanity. And so, and especially in a world that is focused so heavily on commercialization, materialism, we tend to be kind of like programmed to think that our value and self-worth comes from things.
Yeah.
But ultimately comes from our relationships, right?
For sure.
It's like when it gets right down to it and you're on your deathbed, and you've heard the saying, people never say, I wish I spent more time at the office. It's like, it's like you wish that you spent more time with your loved ones.
Right.
So
it's like that old commercial when the little kids are talking about what they're going to be, and one kid's like, I want to claw my way up to middle manager.
Yeah, exactly. That's classic.
Yes.
That's classic. But and to bring it back to like quantum physics that I just mentioned earlier, here's the interesting thing about light. Okay, we know that light, and this has been proven by science.
It's the guy who paints on glass. Everybody,
right? Yeah, he knows about light.
Tell us the interesting thing about light.
Well, here's the thing about light. Light, whenever we look at a star and we go, wow, that light took, let's say that star is supposedly 4.3 light years away.
Yeah.
That light took 4.3 years to get to me, right? Well, that's from our human perspective. But did you know that from light's perspective, it's already been here? And it's been here all along. And that for light, time stands still.
Right.
And there is no distance between points. It's everywhere all at once. And that's a paradox.
Yeah.
We can't reconcile that from the human perspective. But if you understand that from light's perspective, and Einstein said this, that everything is just made of energy, right? He proved it in E equals mc squared. Everything in some fashion is made from light. So on a fundamental level, light is interconnected to all points in space-time. So are we. So on a quantum level, we're all connected. But we don't experience it that way. And then we've been taught pretty much to focus on the external.
Right.
But when you really get down to the heart, matters of the heart, all that sort of stuff, I think we intrinsically understand that we're all connected.
But this is what makes you interesting to me is you've got time to reflect on these things, and it's sort of your mission in life is to create these kinds of images, I would imagine. Like, this stuff informs your art. There's folks that for commercialism for them is survival. And you give them...
Well, it was for me too, though.
Sure, right.
To a degree, for sure.
Maybe they don't have haven't figured out their outlet for that kind of thing. And so they're doing something, they're sacrificing to get to a different space, but you give them this instance, this time, this collection of light and color that allows them to see something else. And I think that's beautiful, because not everybody has your ability to be this amplifier for things. I mean, you can talk about action or spooky action at a distance probably and tell me what it means to my soul. I just know that it exists, and I've got to go now and got to go make some money so I can pay my rent.
Well, I'm subject to these same things too, like everybody else. This kind of existential exploration, this metaphysical thing, for me, actually occurred probably within the last 8 years. I wasn't like this, during my whole art career. Mm-hmm. In fact, I was more interested in astronomy, Star Trek, and all that. I would say, of course, because I liked the aesthetic beauty of it, and I wanted to inspire, but it was more superficial. But I think as you get older, you can't help but start asking these deep questions. Yeah, what's the meaning and purpose of all of this stuff, and how it's all related? Then you connect it back up to what you're doing.
Sure.
and then you can kind of convey it to people, that you discover. You can't help but want to share what you discovered about these things because it's exciting stuff. That's pretty much where I'm at right now with my art.
What I got out of that was Amanda, Pete, and I are already connected.
There you go.
That's what I extracted.
You guys are
from
riding on a beam of light together.
Yes, we are. Did you hear that, Amanda? Anyway, no. In all seriousness, I think that when you can grasp an artist's message and maturity in a medium that's unique, like paint on glass, maybe that's what lit people up about you, to throw a pun in, because I can see where somebody would not quite understand what they're looking at, aside from the aesthetic quality that is enduring about the images that you painted, but the transparency of the glass, the way that the paint allows for light to wake it up, is something that I think we perceive in ways that aren't just through our eyeballs. I think that because of that, we're able to see something and just, something inside of us is ignited. Mm-hmm. And we talked earlier over dinner about the way that human beings perceive things, and that this is, in a lot of ways, a virtual reality. I mean, even the things that we take as reality, which is the way that light bounces off of stuff and the way that we digest it through cones and rods in our eyes and all of that stuff. I mean, it is just perception. It's not like a matrix thing, like we're being fed, but to some degree, we
through
have
your
to
senses.
Acknowledge that our senses are a thing that is
interpreting.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely.
I mean, that's a great analogy, metaphor. I mean, explanation of the human experience. I think that what's interesting right now, as these scientists today are trying to assess what the nature of reality is that you're seeing more and more in the mainstream people like Elon Musk, that if you can YouTube this, you can look it up, but he was on stage and asked the question about his interest in virtual reality, and his answer was, it's 1 billion to 1 that we're not living. It's 1 billion to 1 that we are living in a virtual reality. Now, of course, people at first blush, they go, oh, that doesn't make any sense. How can that be?
Right.
But when you really understand quantum physics and you understand that the conflicts that exist between one branch of science, which is called relativistic physics, and quantum physics, that can't be reconciled, the only explanation that seems to reconcile everything is by assigning everything to the paradigm of a virtual reality. And when you understand how the universe works and you realize it's an information networking system, that it's all just based on information, then you can start to go, wow, maybe what we think this isn't what it really is. It's just a human experience. You're interpreting your experience through your 5 senses, but we're next to blind,
right?
Really. If you look at the spectrum of our eyesight,
sure,
our auditory functions, all of that sort of stuff, it's just a slit.
Every one of our senses.
Every one of our senses
is so finite.
Absolutely.
In its ability to perceive.
And get this, even secular science will admit that what they can actually detect and visualize in the entire universe is only 4%.
Right.
Yeah. Yet they, on the other hand, will say, well, we think we know what's going on. Well, no, they don't. They're admitting they don't. And so they assign it to these really esoteric things like, well, the remaining 96% is dark matter and dark energy, right?
Yeah.
They don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
Yet they know we're next to blind. We're
Right.
looking through a little sliver, a keyhole.
That time you woke up in the car and I was feeling you up, Pete. I wasn't really feeling you up.
Is that dark matter?
That's right. That's what
Dark
that was.
matter.
And I'm dark, so it doesn't matter.
It's dark meat.
Good Lord.
Good Lord, indeed. So what's next on the horizon, man? What are you working on besides? Let's talk actually in more detail about Loween and
Thank you.
The graphic novel and because I've seen it and it's gorgeous. It's beautiful. It's the level of detail, the storyline, her backstory, just what makes her tick and how goddamn vicious she is. You know what she is? I'm pretty sure, first of all, that, it's a graphic novel and it's Michael. So, he draws her in a way that's, let's just say.
She's sexy, man.
Yeah, she's damn sexy.
She's sexy.
I'm pretty sure she plays the bass. You know what I mean? In her off hours, that's what she's doing. She plays the bass and she's funky as hell.
Are there
And
any?
you know how I feel about chicks who play the bass.
Are there any frumpy heroines in the graphic novel world?
No, they're not frumpy. They're
Boy,
not frumpy.
that'd be hard pressed to
It's
find
like-
a frumpy heroine in the graphic.
It's like
Good
it's like
point.
it'd be like a
This
frumpy
sweater.
chick on the side of a lowrider van. That doesn't exist.
A frumpy Blessed Virgin Mary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's the Aztec warrior. He's got a bit of a paunch,
Yeah.
a little bit of a beer belly.
I got this long sweater. It makes me comfortable. I was cold.
No, there's
I've come
none
to
of
whip
that.
your ass.
She's got swords.
Yeah.
She plays the bass.
Where's leather?
She's got boots. She wears leather for sure. Rides a motorcycle.
Right.
She rides a motorcycle.
A skeleton motorcycle.
Yeah,
by the way.
skeleton motorcycle with skulls for treads on the tires.
There you go. And you recognized that when you saw that.
Yeah.
I like that. That was cool.
So the novel itself, though, you've got a number of things that are branching off of it already.
Yes. How this started was I wrote one issue that was the backstory of Loween's mother and parents, and then I realized that was kind of a misstep in my strategy for telling her story. I realized that I should probably just jump right into her contemporary story and just throw you right into the action. So I am close to completing that issue right now. I'm probably 4 or 5 pages away. The problem with writing a graphic novel, when you're doing it by yourself, it takes forever because most comic books are done by 4 or 5 people. You've got a penciler, inker, you've got a dialogue person, you got the colorist. It's crazy. That's why they call them bullpens. If you look at Marvel, they have their bullpens. And so anyway, like
you got Michael. He's doing all this shit and philosophizing.
Well, that's just me trying to figure out, why am I experiencing existential angst? So I have to figure that out while I'm working on this thing. But it is part of the storyline, actually. She is what I call a Ronin witch, and the reason I call her a Ronin witch, most of us know that are familiar with samurai lore. A Ronin is a samurai without a master.
Right.
So she's a practicing martial artist who subscribes to the Bushido code, the way of the samurai.
She's a practicing martial artist in a graphic novel who
rides a
practices
motorcycle.
the Bushido code. You know what that means? She got a big booty. She don't take no shit.
Exactly.
And
That's
she
right
does
on.
shots.
Yeah.
She rides a Harley with skulls for
She
tread.
does. She does
Exactly.
shots. And if you say something about it, she's
Yeah.
got a couple weapons you don't see.
Right.
Plenty of weapons you do see.
Oh, yeah.
So she's also a witch. I say she's a Ronin witch. Well, she's a witch, and why it really works well by calling her a Ronin witch. She's a witch without a coven, so she belongs to no coven.
master, yeah.
No master again. So that's Loween, and I just was on the phone with my publisher today, who's also my agent. She has a publishing company as well. We're coming out with a coloring book first quarter of next year to kind of launch Loween. That's going to be concurrent with hopefully the completion of the first issue of the comic book. But interesting thing about coloring books, when you hear about it at first, you go, oh, a coloring book. But coloring books are huge in
right
bookstore.
now. Yeah.
Adult coloring books.
Yeah.
They're everywhere, and it's a multi-billion-dollar business.
This is a motherfucker of a coloring book, too. I mean, it's
Yeah.
so intricate and so detailed and so interesting in its ability to allow you to express so much.
Exactly.
Brenda loves coloring. If she gets so into it, she forgets to breathe.
Yeah.
Like she's so focused, like other stuff just stops
People
working.
get obsessed with
Yeah,
it. You know what it is, though? It's because we all want to create, right?
Right.
So it's people are vicariously
Christy loves coloring.
becoming.
Yeah,
They're
I've
like
seen her do
they're being their own artist by
Right.
doing their own interpretation.
Because this is going to be purple,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I love it. And if you look at the bookstores, I was just in a bookstore yesterday doing a little bit of exploratory work to see what's out there. They got coloring books for Lord of the Rings, coloring books for Harry Potter, coloring books for every single entertainment property, Game of Thrones. They got all their own coloring books. It's crazy. So I'm excited that Loween will be part of that pantheon.
Loween plays a purple sunburst. P bass.
1959.
Uh-huh. 59 to 62 P bass.
Right.
He's got her figured out.
But a guy named
does.
Earl, she bought it from that guy. And
Well,
that guy
you know
was-
what?
Yeah.
I don't know if she bought it from Earl,
Oh, she went
but
to get
he works on it.
Nice.
Like he's adjusted the truss rod for, she's a performance.
Yeah.
She had to help me write this
He
story.
fiddled with the
Man.
nut. Because the
He
nut wasn't
fiddled
right.
with the nut. All
Wow.
right.
Because I actually have her practicing on some musical instruments. I might need to have you consult for me.
She can practice on a lot of things, but
Yeah.
in her heart, she's a bass player.
Well, she does actually play a cello. That is a bass instrument, right?
Sure.
So, I mean, it is a bass.
I like it.
Yeah.
Why does she play the cello?
You know, I like it's because I like the cello.
Okay.
And
How
that's
do
pretty
these
much
things come to you? I mean, like a motorcycle with skulls for treads, a skeleton motorcycle. Like, is that
Just like when you're talking about, cool Aztec chicks on a van, it's like, I don't know. It's like, it's cool.
right?
It's almost like it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
You have a thing, and you already, in your mind, you've already perceived it and filled it out, and now it's just a matter of allowing it to materialize. And I think that's the thing about this character is that, we're already going into our own interpretations about her, and we're explaining her.
You're helping actually bring her to more life by just talking about this. See, this is that conscious intention that's like, reverberating out in the universe. You're going to help make this actually a material reality.
Right.
Well, thank you guys for that.
See, this is the thing, is that I'm a drummer. So a drummer will make a wisecrack and then look over, like the band is just the getting there, especially if you're just like, hey, man, I got hired to do this gig. Of course I can come do this gig. And you get there and you don't know everybody. You just know the piano player because you gigged with him before, and he knows you can get the job done, so he calls you in. So you get there and you're back there setting up your stuff, and everybody's kind of setting up, and you make a wisecrack and you look over and you realize that the chick you sort of didn't make the wisecrack necessarily about, but you just kind of lobbed it in that direction, and what she's unpacking is a bass. You go, oh, shit. I'm going to keep my mouth shut until she says something else because I don't know what's going to happen. I don't want that bitch to knock me out. That happens. That happens. It's different if you go, oh, yeah, she's, whatever. But there are two instruments that a woman plays that tells you, you better not play with this girl. And they are the bass and the trombone. When you see a woman play the trombone, because girls don't play the trombone out of the 4th grade unless they have something in their DNA that says, I'm taking smack from exactly nobody.
What if a girl plays the tuba?
I'd lump tuba in there.
Okay.
I'd lump tuba in there
That's
because
a choice.
they got to hump that thing home.
Yes.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And that builds she's got some developed lats.
Concert tuba.
Some
She's
force of
bringing
will
that thing.
there.
Yeah, exactly. Force of will.
That's a chick that goes, fuck it.
Yep.
I'm going to do this.
You heard me.
Yeah.
That's what she says.
Yep. You're like, but you're in the 7th grade. You can't say those words. And they get the bird.
Hey,
and
no,
she
we
grabs it.
know somebody whose daughter plays a sousaphone.
Who?
I don't remember.
Oh, man.
I don't know.
I think it's something about the fact
It's somebody
that
we know, though.
Okay.
we think girls, they're supposed to be diminutive or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Petite. They aren't supposed to be wrestling big instruments. So just the fact that they are,
Right.
right?
Because here's the next thing that happens is the dude unpacks the clarinet,
Yeah.
and the chick who plays the tuba looks at that dude and goes, yeah, that's what you brought?
You play the piccolo?
So, soprano player, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
So that's not bringing it all, right? When
Yeah.
you
Not a
love
cut
the
on
clarinet.
Branford Marsalis, by the way.
Yeah. Or anybody who plays the whistle.
From his standpoint, it was like, no, man, I'm secure enough to play the soprano.
Yes.
That's why I bring it. So
There you
that's,
go.
That's for him. But for the most of the 5th graders who are unpacking their instrument, when you see that girl and she's got like a large brass instrument, or she plays the cello, or something that's got some some oomph.
Mass.
Yeah, some mass and some oomph. She's like force to be reckoned with.
Absolutely.
So, if we've done
Absolutely.
anything to help explain this character in our heads, I mean, and I'm making this up because I didn't see her playing a purple 62p bass, but now I do.
Absolutely. You
And-
brought it into reality.
I like
It's there now.
Yeah, and we may never see that, but that's my understanding of her.
You're inspiring me, though.
All right.
Yeah,
She's got a
absolutely.
big callus on her thumb.
Uh huh.
She'll rub that in your eye. if you mess
She
around,
will. You mess around,
Yeah.
you get to callous. So yeah. Shout out to Tall Wilkenfeld.
Tall Wilkenfeld.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
she's a bass player. She's like, I don't know how old she is. She's not old.
Yeah.
But when she was like 16, she was playing with Herbie Hancock,
Wow.
bass player.
Holy cow.
And it's not like, and she's adorable. This girl is cute. And she puts on the bass and she will fuck you up. She's not kidding. She is
She
cutting
will.
heads
Wow.
in a ridiculous way that makes big dude bass players like James Early go, oh boy.
Damn.
Yeah.
Wow.
So anyway, that's Loween.
Loween.
Loween. Well, she is being shopped around also as a entertainment property to the studios in the form of pitches. So
Nice.
that's
I'm already
happening.
in my head thinking about who's going to play her.
I want to see her as a
Okay.
live-action feature-length movie. That's the
Yeah.
goal. In the vein of things like Underworld.
Yeah.
Remember that movie?
Yeah. Sure.
Ass-kicking vampire.
Right.
She's not a vampire, but she's a witch.
Yeah.
But basically kicking some demon ass.
So who plays her? I love this game.
It's a good
Okay,
game.
she's part Japanese and a little bit of Chinese, but she's the other side of her is Scottish and Irish, and that's because I'm half Japanese,
Right.
and the other half is Scottish Irish.
Okay.
Samurai and Highlander.
Nice.
So
Mashup.
Let me say, if we were in 1991,
Oh, come on.
she would have
All right.
been played by Nia Peoples.
Could be
Moving
Could
forward,
be.
forward slightly, she would have
background cheer.
Yeah, well, she would.
KB's reading a book about insomnia and laughing her ass off.
It does always.
Yeah,
it does
I knew it
always.
was coming too. I'm like, this is going to be Nia Peoples. I know. I know where it's going next. Go ahead.
Okay, it's going to end at Jessica Alba.
Okay, good.
But the thing
Could
is,
have been, too.
It could, yeah, it could have been if it was
Younger,
6 years ago.
younger.
It would have been. It would have been Jessica Alba. It might be. I don't know who it is now. I'm
I
just too
don't-
old and fat to know who this generation's
Yeah,
Jessica
you can
Alba,
throw,
Nia Peoples.
You can throw
is.
me in there as well. I don't know who would be a good young 17, 18-year-old, half Asian, half...
Yeah, she hasn't emerged yet.
Not yet. I'm looking, though. I got my
So we're
eyes...
going for an unknown.
But the thing
I would,
is, you
in
know
a
what?
way, I would
You're-
prefer an unknown.
Yeah,
Okay.
she almost has to be because she has to come without notions that are, she either has to be an unknown or she has to come from, let's say, like she was a UFC lightweight who just decided I'm too fine to do this anymore.
Yeah.
Like I want a belt. I'm like 18-1, but I don't want to be 18-2. So
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to go get me some real money because I deserve it.
Yeah, is she more Nordic? Is she like a bigger girl, or is she?
No,
more-
she's petite.
she's petite. Okay, okay.
And that's what makes the fact that she rides. Not only does she ride a motorcycle, but she rides like a rigid.
Oh wow.
It's a rigid.
Yeah, it's a hardtail.
And she is, and she's kickstarting that bad boy.
Exactly.
She's like,
No
when you
electric
see
starters
that
on this
little
thing.
girl who has to like grab the handlebar on
Right.
one side and almost run up the bike and jump down on the
Exactly.
starter. And if it throws off wrong, she's going to have to do a backflip
A
off
little
of that thing.
recoil off the Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Is her grandpa Randall Tex Cobb from Raising Arizona?
It might be. But nowadays, the thing I love about that character is that is today's character. I mean, more and more as we get into let's face it. How old are you, man? Like 36? So
Yeah, I wish.
right around
How many
there
years
somewhere.
ago?
Right around 36.
Yeah.
But, when we were kids, a mix of two Asian cultures and Scottish and Irish all put together was less common than it is now.
Absolutely.
And so now I think that the emergence of that movie star, whoever she is out there, keep practicing whoever you are, because whoever it is right now she's practicing. She's
out there.
hitting the speed bag. She's got her dad's holding pads for her, and she's training.
I see her as a modern day heroine, and we all love empowered females that
Sure.
kick ass, right? There's something to that,
Absolutely.
and I think that for sure she's going to have some kind of a background like that, because I think it would really add to the role.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the fact that she's petite, dealing with all of this big stuff, big bikes, big evil, big darkness.
Right.
Nah.
Big bikes, big evil, big darkness. That's why, as much as I love Gina Carano, she's got too much in the shoulders
Okay.
to play this part.
Okay.
Yeah, she's pretty big.
She looks like, yeah, you can handle that bike.
Well, she actually has to fight people.
Right.
And
Yeah.
she's probably too old, too, so...
Well, yeah, by
Yeah.
like 15 years.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Awesome, but...
Yeah.
I mean, right now we're talking about an entertainment property whose star is right now probably 15.
Very possibly.
You
That's
know.
if I can get this thing sold in the near future.
Well,
I gotta
Get
hurry
this
up.
selling. You need Shep Gordon.
Oof. It's not easy getting a property sold in Hollywood.
I bet.
Give you a little background. I actually had a couple of things optioned by the studios. One was a project that's still alive it was being shopped to Paramount, and I was in negotiations with them, and who wanted to produce it at the time was Kathleen Kennedy and Frank Marshall.
Oh, okay.
Anybody who's familiar with Kathleen Kennedy knows that she's basically in charge of all of Star Wars right now. A huge producer for Spielberg. I was sitting across the table, just like this one here, with Frank Marshall and her wanting to produce this other project. But when I went into negotiations with Paramount, the whole thing fell apart because they tend to want to control your property. They want to give you a net deal oftentimes, which means that you don't see anything.
Right.
Some parts of me wish I would have done it. Just maybe it could have been a lost leader, and they could have led to other things. But it's really hard to make a deal with Hollywood.
Yeah.
And so I think the way I'm doing it now is I'm trying to build it from the grassroots, build market equity through my own comic book and then also merchandise.
Yeah.
And if you can build market equity, then you can come at the studios with a lot more leverage.
You know, the movie that made Arnold Schwarzenegger his most money was Twins.
Oh, so mainstream, right?
Right.
Yes, it was so commercial.
And nobody saw it coming. So they were like, yeah, you want a bigger piece of that pie? Sure.
Yeah.
We'll take a bigger piece of Conan.
Right.
And we'll give you a bigger piece of Twins.
That was savvy on his part.
It really was.
Yeah.
But in case anybody
talented.
isn't aware of Kathleen Kennedy, here's what it means to sit across the table and talk about your property with Kathleen Kennedy. She was a co-founder of Amblin Entertainment. And one thing that I'm looking at her Wikipedia page right now, she is third only to Steven Spielberg and Stan Lee in domestic box office receipts.
Holy shit.
We're talking about a chick who probably plays the bass.
Nice circle back there.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
She's big time.
She's a heavy hitter.
She's a heavy hitter. And the
And
property...
if you want to know where her producing credits came from, you can start at E.T.
Yeah.
There you go. Absolutely.
She's not a stranger to the putting together of a movie.
Her husband, Frank Marshall, directed Arachnophobia,
Right.
directed, I believe, the movie was called Alive, about those surviving soccer team up in the Andes,
Yeah.
as Swing Kids.
Sure. Okay.
He's been behind some really successful movies. They were both really wonderful people. The project I was negotiating with and that they wanted to produce was called Shred, and that was another project that I'm working on right now, and it's been 15 years in the making.
Right.
But SHRED stands for Superhumanoids for Reconnaissance, Espionage, and Defense.
Nice. Kind of like Chud.
Right, yes. You talked about Frank Marshall's directing credits, and you're talking about the movie in the with the soccer players who were in the plane crash, had to eat each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow,
That was a heavy movie.
Yeah.
Really well done.
Yeah.
that was a heavy movie with some really amazing directing, general filmmaking, physical obstacles
Yes.
Absolutely.
to making that movie.
Yeah.
And here you are, focused really in about one location, and
Yeah.
all the dynamics going on just amongst a social group of people trying to survive.
Right.
That takes some imagination to make that interesting.
Sure.
Of course, the circumstances made it interesting, but just the interaction of all these people under that stress.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. And then ultimately being confronted by the fact of the only way we're going to survive is
This is
to
coming.
eat
Right.
somebody.
Right.
Man.
Yeah.
Shoo.
And then to be the
One
guys,
of my teammates.
to be the guys that go walk down a mountain with no trail, nothing.
Oh, yeah, that was do or die, right?
Yep.
It's like,
It's do and usually die.
exactly.
I mean, Eddie went, didn't come back. There's all kinds of those stories. where
Absolutely.
The guy goes to rescue, and they just, yeah.
Well, thankfully, most of us have not been confronted with that challenge.
In case anybody didn't hear, Pete said Eddie went.
He did.
He did. Eddie would go, and he did go, and he didn't make it back.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
So, great, man. What should we look for next out of you, and where should we be keeping our eyeballs? If we're the audience and we're hearing something interesting in what you're doing, what do you want people to look at?
Probably, I think the best way to stay abreast with what I'm doing is through my Facebook page, Michael David Ward. If you just do a search on that. I use my Facebook page mostly for my art. It's not so much my personal life. So it's a good way to see what I'm working on. And I also have websites, michaeldavidward.com and Loween.com. Those are some of the things they can check out.
Spell Loween for us.
Loween is spelled Loween, and it's derived from the word Halloween. And
It's
one
like
of the
Halloween without Hal.
Exactly. You can say, or, hi, Loween, Halloween. The reason I came up with this is that one of the things I liked when I was younger is I loved watching this old cult B movie actress called Vampira. Anybody familiar with her? Now, she was in the 50s, and she was the groundbreaking vampire heroine that came on as kind of a host for these like low-budget movies.
Right.
And she was the precursor to some of the hosts like Bob Wilkins of Creature Features and all
Right.
that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And then she ultimately inspired Elvira.
Right.
And I've always liked those characters. And I thought, because Halloween is actually my favorite holiday.
Sure.
I love Halloween. I love all the movies around it. I thought, well, I think it's time that there be a new kind of Queen of Halloween. So you can find her there by just checking out some of those sites.
What's Loween's walk-up song?
Boy, I haven't thought of that yet. There are
figure
songs
this out.
that I actually associated with her, but not really that.
Fucking
Well, you got
best
some in
question.
mind?
Yeah.
You got some in mind?
Let's go.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Man, you can't go wrong with Rage Against the Machine. So
No.
that just builds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is
Yeah.
down. You're like, oh shit, something about to happen.
It's got to be edgy for sure.
Sure.
It's got to have edge. It's got to be. There's so much good music out there right now.
Oh, of course,
I
yeah.
mean, all these mashups and fusions going on, right?
Yes.
Really just cool, inspiring stuff.
Whatever it is going to be something by Skrillex, and it's going to
Okay.
be inspired by Enter Sandman.
Nice.
So yeah, it's going to have the there's going to be something kind of laid back about it because she's got a swagger to her, and then when she gets up there is when it bursts open and she starts fucking it up.
There's certain instruments that bring that kind of feeling of impending doom.
Exactly.
Like something about to happen. Like a Barry sax. That thing's just. Oh god.
A Barry sax through an overdrive pedal.
Yeah, exactly. something terrifying like that. Maybe it's a really dirty and scary version of Going Back to Cali.
Ooh, there you go.
know?
There you
And
go.
It's just terrifying.
Well, let's hope that she comes out in the near future so we can have that premiere party,
Yes.
That'd be a blast, right?
Right.
The Loween party.
And let's hope Pete doesn't dress like her
Oh man.
because he might.
Damn it.
He might.
I'm okay with that, though, man.
Oh,
I mean,
good.
if that's your thing, it's good with me.
It's going to be my interpretation of how she dresses. And she wears a bagel costume.
Hey, that she inspired you so much that you'd want to dress like her, hey, that says a lot to me, man.
Nice.
And you should go for it. So, hey man, thanks a lot.
Hey, thank you, guys. I really appreciate the opportunity, and it was an honor to hang out with you. A lot of
Thanks.
fun.
Yeah.
You guys are cool.
So, hey everybody, Michael David Ward.